Welcome, everyone, to the Chicago Football Connection podcast. My name is Stephen Letizia. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Stephen Letizia. Make sure to also follow the Chicago Football Connection Twitter at CFC Bears. If you do follow that account, make sure that you check out my pinned tweet. I'm raffling off the signed Mike Ditka jersey you see behind me. So if you find that pinned tweet, like it, retweet it, comment on which player you think the Bears are going to pick with their first pick next week's draft, and you have a chance to win the Mike Ditka signed jersey. It is an authentic signed jersey. I have a picture of him signing it, certificate of authenticity, all that crap. It's one of my most prized possessions, so I will be sorry to see it go, but I really do think that we got something here with CFC. I never means giving away my crap to people to get it off the ground. I'm more than willing to do that. I'm not going to commit to anything, but I also do have like a Walter Payton signed football and a Gale Sayers signed football. So if we get enough people listening and reading, I don't know, maybe someday. Also, make sure to check out the site, chicagofootballconnection.com. I've been posting articles there for the past few weeks. This week, I've been, getting the podcast off the ground, so not as many articles, but we will be posting multiple articles per week on there. There is a fan forum, so if you want to start your own conversations, you can do that if you set up an account. Otherwise, if you want anything posted on there, just send me what you want posted. I'll gladly post it on the site. So today is the first ever CFC podcast. I'm really excited to get started. We're doing a 2022 NFL Draft Bears wide receiver preview show. And to help me out, I have my buddy Tom Kavanaugh on the line. You can follow him on Twitter at TommyK_NFL Draft. He's a great follow on Twitter. Really smart guy. He's got some great takes, got some questionable takes as well, which we'll get to. But Tommy, thanks for coming on. And we had some technical difficulties, but we figured it out. And happy to have you on. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm really happy to be here. Once I saw you launching the site, I was like, I definitely need to get on this.
Yeah.
Steven's also a great follow. And yeah, I'm just excited to talk some receivers.
Yeah, as am I. And also, I noticed today that Tom is like 8 followers away from 1,000. So let's at least try to get him there.
I'm saying,
I
need
so
it.
Let's do that. He deserves it. All right. So as I mentioned, we're doing the wide receiver preview show. Obviously, we know the Bears need a wide receiver. The odds of them leaving next week's draft without a wide receiver are very low. If they give you that odds in Vegas, take it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through Tommy's list. So Tom sent me a list of his rankings for the Bears. I quickly threw one together as well just to match up. So we're going to go through kind of who we like for the Bears, who we don't like, who fits with the Bears, everything you need to know. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. And I'm going to pull up our wide receiver rankings. So we got my rankings on the left, Tom's in the middle, and then I put Dane Brugler's rankings on the right. Just something to compare it to. Dane Brugler, I think, is the best draft guy out there. I love reading his stuff, so I reference his stuff a lot. So I put all that up here. The first thing you'll probably notice is that the number one wide receiver for both me and Tom is Sky Moore. And Tom, I have to give you credit because I watched, like most Bears fans, I watched Sky Moore months ago, and I thought, yeah, he's fine. Like literally, I was just like, he's gonna be okay, and kind of moved on and started looking at other people. But you replied to one of my tweets a few weeks ago and said you wanted Sky Moore. I did more digging, and I absolutely fell in love. I really do love him for the Bears. But I want to hear why you have him as your number one.
Yeah, well, I think everyone values different things in receivers, right? Some people love size. Some people like contested catchability. I am a sucker for dudes who get open at a high level, and that is Sky Moore. I think he has some of the best releases in this class, like no problems at all being press coverage. And I know he's only 5'9", but like he's 195 pounds. Like he is not slight. He is physical in the ways he gets off the line of scrimmage. And I just feel like that's what translates at the next level. Like that's the things that like you have to have in order to be an effective wide receiver to separate yourself from the other receivers in this class. And he's one of the best in the class, bar none, like even compared to the top guys that we're not even going to talk about because they're probably not going to be around for the Bears. So that's why I really fell in love with Sky Moore.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm really glad you brought up the press, the ability to beat press, because that's something that, not a lot of people can do in this draft class. I feel like it's a pretty weak draft class when it comes to beating press. And I know a lot of Bears fans are focused on that big X receiver who's 6'3", and he's going to power through cornerbacks and beat press. But most of the time, the players who are most successful beating press are the smaller, quicker guys, not so much the bigger, stronger guys. And like you said, he's 195 pounds. That's not small. I mean,
Not
there
small
are
at all.
wide receivers in this class that are 6'3", 6'4", who are 195 pounds or less. Like he can play that X receiver spot. I don't think he's going to be there full time. I think he's more of a slot guy, but he can play on the outside too. So yeah, I saw the same thing. The ability to get open, the quickness at the line of scrimmage, it just set him apart from everyone else, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look at it, Sky Moore weighed in at the same amount as the next guy on my list, George Pickens, who is like a couple inches taller than him. So like, yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up George Pickens. We'll definitely get to him in a second. That is one of my big concerns about George Pickens is he's 195 pounds, but that's not a concern with Sky Moore. I don't have a problem with Sky Moore being 195 pounds because he's 5'10". So that squatty build, a lot more compact, a lot bigger, even though they're the same weight. So I have some clips I want to show for Sky Moore, and I had a comparison that I really liked. So I know, Tom, you had a different comp. But I think both of them were good. When I saw him, I saw the next Stephon Diggs. And I know it may be Stephon Diggs light because I don't want to compare anyone to maybe the best receiver in football, but Stephon Diggs light, but they have very similar play styles. And you can see from their RAS scores here. RAS is relative athletic score for anyone's not familiar. At MathBomb on Twitter, it's Kent Lee Platt. He does a great job with relative athletic score. Follow him. I reference this a lot, so I want to make sure I give him a shout out. But the size is pretty similar. Stephon Diggs is a little taller, but similar size, similar speed, more actually a little faster, exact same shuttle, similar 3-cone, and just their style of play, the way they get open, the way they run routes is just very similar. And Tom, you had a comp as well. Who I forgot who it was, but I remember thinking it was good. Who did you comp him to?
My comp for him was a sure-handed Anthony Miller who runs the correct routes.
That's right. And I think as Bears fans, we all agree that having an Anthony Miller who knows what route to run would be fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
I like that one as well. I went a little bit lofty with my comp. Stephon Diggs comparing someone to him but I just feel like they get open in similar ways. And I have some clips that I want to show to see it. So this is Sky Moore running a slant. I mean, that's just dirty. He left that corner in the dust. Here's Stephon Diggs running the exact same slant, same outside step, cutting inside, same exact way. They get open in very similar ways.
And what's crazy to me with Sky Moore is I guess you could say this is kind of a knock on him given, the opportunity he was afforded, but he runs like the same couple routes, gets open every single time. Like if defenders who study him, like they got to expect a certain couple of routes coming and he still just dusts them every time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is I know Western Michigan, didn't not have him run around to go routes or anything. They used him a lot underneath, but I don't think that's because he can't do it. I just think that's the way they used him.
I mean, they had RPOs on literally every single pass they had. So
yeah, right. So they didn't have a lot of deep playability options. But anytime Sky Moore was asked to run deep, he was successful at it. So
yeah, he straight up mosses people on tape. He plays a lot bigger at the catch point, I feel like too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there were some times where maybe he doesn't always win the 50-50 balls. He's not going to be that type of player. He doesn't struggle in it by any means. A guy who's 5'9", 5'10", he does pretty good. Okay. And a couple more versus Diggs ones. So this is at the top of the screen is, as we said, getting open deep. He doesn't create a ton of separation like that, but he creates just enough to create a window for their quarterback. So another way that they just are kind of similar. So I just really like that comp. We'll see if he ever reaches that level, but I think, maybe he's not going to be a 140 receptions guy, but he could be that 80 receptions guy, 1,200 yards, and he's going to do that consistently for 10 years.
Yeah, 100%. And the last thing I'll say about him is that he, according to PFF, he led all receivers in forced missed tackles. That is kind of a dynamic, I feel like, on the Bears receiving core that they don't really have. So I know they're going to get more vertical, but I think with the vertical offense, there's going to be a lot of intermediate opportunities. I mean, that's kind of like the Shanahan style of offense that we expect Getsy to bring over. I think with those digs and crossers, that's going to be Sky Moore if they were to target him.
Yeah, absolutely. They've already said their offense is based in the West Coast. Sky Moore's perfect for the West Coast. Like the ability to catch a short pass and turn it into 15, 20 yards. That's
Right.
where he fits perfectly. So yeah, I think if he's on the board at 39, I'd have a hard time passing him up. I think yeah, that'd be tough. It's difficult because I want the Bears to trade back and get more picks, but I know there's going to be someone on the board that I'm like, no, screw that, just draft that guy.
Right.
So, but we'll see. So I also think there's a possibility he gets drafted before the Bears run the clock. But
yeah, I'm like thinking that the more closer we get to the draft.
Yeah, I think NFL coaches are gonna like him more than NFL Twitter probably.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that was a good conversation on Scott Moore, but let's move on. We're going to go to George Pickens next. So George Pickens was your number 2 wide receiver. I had him a little bit lower, but there's obviously a lot to like about George Pickens. So why did you have him as your number 2?
So I feel like he's the best combination of upside and floor out of all the big receivers that keep getting linked to Chicago. And the thing that I felt leaving watching George Pickens tape is like I wanted more, and it wasn't even necessarily a knock on him in that regard. It was more of just like the opportunities he was afforded and the way Georgia used him, like in the how run heavy of an offense they were. I think he's as dominant as any receiver in this class at the catch point in terms of contested catches. But the flashes of route running is what really enticed me. I just wish we saw more of it. So that is kind of the ceiling I project out for him. I know he's not this elite athlete. He's a good athlete across the board, nothing special, but I really did like the lateral, shake he had at the line of scrimmage that he flashed. I just wish it was more consistent and he had more examples to point to it on tape.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I liked a lot of the George Pickens I watched. As a football player, like everything you said, the hands, the body control, the size, the route running. He's a much better route runner than I anticipated when I started watching him, because I thought, taller guy, probably not a great route runner, but he's pretty shifty at the line, better quickness. His body control is what stood out to me. The ability to adjust the ball in there, and he makes these incredible catches. He probably has the best hands in the draft, at least of the people that we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, him and Sky Moore probably have the 2 best. I did have a little bit more concerns for me. It was interesting to me that you said he had a very high floor, and that's the consensus that I get. But I feel like his floor is actually lower than what people expect, and that's why I have him a little bit lower. And it's kind of what we talked about when we were talking about Sky Moore, where he's 6'3", 195 pounds. There just aren't wide receivers in the NFL 6'3", 195 pounds that with any success. There's literally 0 examples of success at that size. So he's going to have to put on weight, and yeah, that's certainly doable, but he's got to put on it's not 5 pounds he needs to put on. He needs to put on 15, 20 pounds. And is he going to still be a 4.47 guy if he puts on 15 pounds? And then if he slows down a little bit, then he's just a contested catch receiver at 6'3", right, which, has value. And I don't think he's going to bust out of the league, but I think he does have that floor of he could end up as a number 3, number 4 receiver. But I don't want it to sound like I don't like George Pickens. I do like George Pickens. If he was the pick for the Bears, I'd be happy. But there was and the other one thing that I wanted to throw out is I saw this tweeted out by PFF. This is the routes run by some of the people that we're talking about today, and you see George Pickens all the way on the right. He basically only ran go and hitch routes.
Right. It was so frustrating on his tape.
It was very frustrating because he is a good route runner.
Exactly, and George's quarterback situation too, not the best to evaluate wide receivers. But yeah, that was really the most frustrating part to me, because I actually heard from someone from PFF to go back and watch his 2019 tape, and I did, and I forgot Jake Fromm was the quarterback, and literally every corner was just biting on everything short because they did not trust his arm. And I was like, I don't know how fairly I can evaluate this when they're not threatened deep at all and they kind of just know what's coming. But the more I watched him, I think the more I liked him. I think that the size thing is definitely a fair concern. I guess where I wasn't as concerned on the field is he didn't play. He played strong, in my opinion. That wasn't like, yeah, there was some time. I think Patrick Surtain probably gave him the most trouble from the games that I watched at the line of scrimmage. But like for the most part, he didn't have that much trouble fighting off contact besides Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think beating press, I didn't see any problems there, even at his,
Yeah.
105 pounds. Beating press, no problems. The only time I saw him kind of out physicaled was at like the stem. So I have this video here against Tennessee. This is where a guy can like get his hands on you and press and kind of get in on him. And that's when his lack of weight comes into play. Not so much at the line with press.
Right.
It's those opportunities. So, but yeah, I mean, I think George Pickens, he still, like you said, has a ton of upside, even with the concerns. And we haven't even mentioned the injury concerns yet. He did tear his ACL, but still has a ton of upside. Could be that number one guy. But if he is that number one guy, he's going to be an outlier. So I just don't like betting on outliers. So that's why I lowered him on my board just a little bit. Okay. We ready to move on to the next guy?
Yeah.
This is a guy that is actually my number 2 wide receiver. I forget where you had him, but Jaylen Tolbert. I liked Jaylen Tolbert a lot more than I thought. I just love how smooth he is. Like every route he runs he's a much better route runner than I thought he was. Coming from a small school, I kind of expected like a freak athlete who just overpowered people, but I really thought that he was a better technician in his routes than I expected. So where did you have Tolbert on this? You had him pretty high as well.
Yeah, mine. He was my wide receiver 3 for this list.
Yeah, so he was 2 for me, 3 for you. So yeah, pretty much the same.
Yeah, no, I really like Tolbert. So like, here's the thing. Like, I think his like natural separation ability, like in a phone booth against press coverage, is like exceptional. Like he is like really quick feet, like really smooth laterally. I think like the route running itself, like how he breaks off his routes, it's not like he's like stiff in any regard or limited. It's just kind of like lazy because like their whole entire offense was like focused on getting him the ball. Like he didn't really have to do much to get the ball. You know what I mean? Like, so I think like the details within his actual routes, not like how he gets open, but within his actual routes could use some improvement. And I guess the only other knock on him, and for me, is that like he's not this like elite athlete with this like unlimited ceiling, right? But like his ball skills, all of like the necessary things that you have to be this outside wide receiver, he has. And yeah, the ceiling might not be great, but he can come in and contribute right away and be, I think, a more than viable option if the Bears were willing to take him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with everything you just said. Where do you think he's going to get drafted? Because I've seen some people say the 3rd. I think he might get drafted in the 2nd. Like, I don't think he's going to be available.
He should
at 71. Like, I think he should be drafted in the 2nd. But like, I've seen a lot of mocks with like the Bears taking him at 71, and like, maybe like who knows what's going to happen. So it's certainly possible. But I just feel like he's going to be maybe the Bears could take him with their second round pick. Then maybe they don't have to do it with the 1st. But that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so it's weird. I don't know why people aren't talking about him more, because I think like the only, again, like what would scare teams away, or maybe not, he's like kind of like a tweener, not a tweener. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, yeah, he played this X receiver role at South Alabama. So I guess like the competition level is going to knock him a little bit, but I still thought he dominated at the Senior Bowl. And then like in terms of athleticism, he's just kind of like a good athlete across the board, not really elite anywhere. So maybe like a team just kind of sees him as like, a jack of all trades, master of none. But even then, like, I don't know what else you're really chasing in this class for you to think that you like, you know what I mean? Could wait
especially
especially
in the 2nd round, every receiver is going to have like some warts.
Exactly.
And like, and like the thing was with Tolbert, like I said this about George Pickens, so it's only fair to say about Tolbert too. He does have to put on weight. He's super skinny. He's also, he's 195 pounds at 6'1", so it's a little bit different, but he still has to put on 5, 10, 15 pounds maybe. So there's that. The small school is obviously a big concern, but he only had one, I saw this, he only had one game against a Power 5 team in his entire career. And it was like Tennessee, and he put up like 150 yards.
Yeah, he dominated.
So he dominated them, but still, it's still not a full body of work. But yeah, I really like him, and I'm glad you brought up the Senior Bowl, because he was like the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl, and that should get people to not care as much about his small school. I love this route here. This is just like so smooth. Like he
Yeah,
gets
and like
open
he
so easily.
consistently did stuff like that on his tape. Like it was
Yeah,
like I wasn't surprised he came in there and impressed because like that was the guy I watched, like
yeah, yeah. And this is against Tennessee, big playability, one-handed catch. Like this is against it is. It's not against Alante Taylor. Alante Taylor's on their side, who is a
mm-hmm.
corner that I like, but that's still a nice play. And then this is against Darian Kendrick, an SEC
Pour
corner
one
from
out.
Georgia.
Pour one out.
Yeah, not even close. Like I agree. I don't know why people aren't talking about him. No, I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a pretty good pro and someone who contributes pretty early on.
Yeah, I just think he's not flashy across the board from
Yeah,
his like profile, but his tape is like as good as any of the big body
yeah,
receivers that we're going to talk about.
yeah. You know what it is? He doesn't have those like Twitter plays that get
Yeah,
tweeted out with like a ridiculous catch, but he's always open and he makes the right play. So
right.
yeah. So I mean I hope if the Bears can't get Sky Moore at 39, I hope they get Tolbert at 48.
I would not
All
be
right.
mad about that at all.
Yeah, not at all. All right, the next guy we're going to talk about, I think this is one that Bears fans love. Or I guess love or hate, but it's Christian Watson from North Dakota State. I think you had him a little bit, just like one spot higher than me. So why do you like Christian Watson?
I mean the potential, right? Like the speed is completely evident on his tape. I mean, like he is an elite athlete for NFL standards. That was only more evident in the Missouri Valley. Like he literally just can run past people because they just don't have anyone who is comparable to him as an athlete in that conference. So the athleticism is real, and like that speed shows up on tape. I mean, that was primarily how he was used. And then like I don't think he's stiff in any regard either. For being a bigger body guy, that's usually where their weaknesses lie. But that's really not him. His change of direction was awesome. And I think that showed up at the Senior Bowl where he was able to face more press coverage, which he didn't really do a whole ton at North Dakota State. And that would probably be my biggest concern, right? We keep talking about these X receivers, like this is what we want, these bigger body guys. But at the end of the day, an X receiver's like greatest strength is winning one-on-one coverage. And it's not a question of whether or not Christian Watson is bad at that or like I have any doubts. It's just I haven't really seen him do it outside of like a couple reps at the Senior Bowl. So that would probably be my biggest question in terms of his projection. And then obviously the ball skills were not great. Like he was not good in contested situations. He had more drops than you feel great about. I know drops are kind of unstable from year to year, but like, that is definitely not a strength of his game either.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with 100% everything you just said. Like we're talking about these guys who are beating press and X receivers. I just want my X receiver to beat press and threaten the field vertically. And that's pretty much it. So he's definitely a guy who could do that, but I agree. He didn't, I think he can do it. I don't know he can do it because he didn't do it in college, but I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be able to do it in the pros. So I like him there. The drops are definitely concerning. I think he actually does have decent like body control in like adjusting to off target throws and snagging the ball. It's crazy. He makes these ridiculous catches like over the shoulder, jumping over the shoulder, and then will drop one that hits him right in the hand. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of those drops.
That was the thing. Like he would attack the ball the right way. He just like sometimes wouldn't come down. You know what I mean? Like just like make the catch. You know what I mean? Like you did everything right leading up to it. It's like just catch the ball. Like we're good.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, but he's just a freak athlete. So I'm usually a bet on traits guy, and there's no wide receiver who's better traits than Christian Watson.
Highest ceiling in the class. Highest ceiling in the class.
And I think that extends to the first rounder guys too. Like he could be if you told me Christian Watson's going to be the best wide receiver in 5 years, those guys, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like Sky Moore, I would probably be like, yeah, maybe. George Pickens would be like, yeah. Jaylen Tolbert would be like, yeah, probably not. But Christian Watson, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes complete sense.
He was like the only person to ever test anything close to him at the combine was Calvin Johnson. Like that just shows you the kind of athlete that he is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to compare anyone to Calvin Johnson. I know
right.
That's not what you're doing.
Yeah, he's not Calvin Johnson, but
yeah, but the fact that he was just even in the conversation of Calvin Johnson is obviously a good thing. The comparison I had, and I feel like he's going to be a little bit better than MVS, Marquez Valdez Scantling, but from kind of a similar standpoint, taller guys probably needs to put on a little bit of weight, not a ton of weight, but a little bit of weight, deep threat, big playability with questionable hands. So I thought that was, I think, Marquez Valdes-Scantling probably not as good as Christian Watson, but that same type of player, especially, in year one, I think Christian Watson's role is going to be that MVS. I don't think he's not a very precise route runner right now. He played from a lesser competition. If the Bears draft him in the second, he's going to be a deep threat guy, and that's basically it in year one. And then, you hope to develop him and turn him into that dynamic number one option going forward. But I think in year one, an MVS comparison is pretty good. I would be more than happy with that if you get that kind of production out of a rookie wide receiver who's not a first-round draft pick.
That's funny because that was my comp for him too. So we see him very similarly. Yeah.
I feel like that's an easy one. That's some of these comps, like, I like struggle with, like, who's it going to be? This one I was like, okay, no, it's MVS 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this one video that I liked. This is him run blocking, actually, and they run block a lot in both Dakota State, but he was actually at the top of the screen, and then he just, look how much more athletic he is than all these people,
right.
Just running down the field. Like, it's crazy that, like, he should have never been in this league. I wish he just had, like, transferred in, like, 1 year at, like, I don't know, any FBS school.
Yeah. Honestly, no.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like I wish he did too. And then, like, it's a great point that you brought up that they were a run heavy offense. It wasn't like they were just like drop back, spread the ball around the field type of offense. Like, so again, it was more of like, it's just a lot of questions rather than not like whether or not he can do it. I think the Senior Bowl though definitely gives you a vote of confidence to feel good about him heading into the NFL.
Yeah, agreed. He was also, him and Tolbert were definitely the two best receivers at the Senior Bowl, no question. And yeah, and like I wonder, like, if he was in even if he was at an FCS school that just threw the ball more, would he be a first round pick? I don't know. I just think his stats he only had 105 career receptions and 16 drops. So, like, I don't know, maybe if he was in a more prolific offense, I don't know. Maybe he'd go first round, or maybe he would, or maybe his deficiencies would have been highlighted more. So I don't know, but he's definitely an interesting guy. And I think in the second round, if you can draft a guy with his athleticism, take a chance. He also could be out of football in like 2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
so who knows?
Wide variety of outcomes.
Yeah, I'm willing to risk that in the second round. All right. So this next guy is a guy that you had a lot lower than I expected on your list. I had him as number 2 receiver. As Johan Dotson from Penn State. So why did you rank him below these other guys?
Well, because he sucks. First, no, I'm just kidding. No, I really.
All right, on to the next one.
No, I really do like Johan Dotson. Like, I do not want to I'm probably lower on him than the consensus, but like that doesn't mean I don't like him, because there's a lot to like about his game. I think he has like some of the best ball skills in the class, especially for his size. Like, he plays just so much bigger at the catch point than a guy who's 5'10", 178 pounds. Like, he elevates for the ball. I really like his route running. I really love his route running out in the slot. Like, when he has space to work with and he can run those option routes, whether they just be like the little short option routes or like the vertical option routes, I love him in that role. I guess my biggest concern with him would be the physicality gave him trouble when he was on the outside. I think that smaller frame, that's when it bites him, when he has to line up on the outside and run vertical routes and run into defenders. Like, he can shake people, but when he has to like stack corners, that's where I kind of, that's kind of where I had my lows with him. But I think he's going to be, honestly, like the way I would use him, he would be one of the better slot receivers in this draft class, and like a very good slot receiver at the next level. I don't know how much I'd want him to play on the outside. And like, I didn't think he was incredibly dynamic with the ball in his hands either. I like him. I like him though. I don't want that to sound like a poor evaluation, because I do like him.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Everything you said. I mean, I like him just a little bit more, but there's always going to be differences. I agree with you. I think he's a slot only guy. I wouldn't play him on the outside. Physicality really, gave him trouble. So put him in the slot, give him those option routes to go, wherever he wants to go, and just profit, because he's going to get open. He can beat NFL corners. He can beat NFL slot corners, and his body control, contested catches, ability. Not so much good. I don't know why I included that contest catch, but his body control is pretty good. The one-handed grabs, everything like that. I don't think, again, there's another guy. I don't think Johan Dotson's going to be available for the Bears. I think he's going to be a late first-round pick, maybe to like the Chiefs or something. He has Chiefs written all over him to kind of replace Tyreek Hill. But, I think he'd be a good player in Chicago if they have the opportunity to take him.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's also another guy I want because he did this a bunch at Penn State, running those deep crossers, man. Like he plucks the ball in the middle, like in some traffic, man, and he will take some shots and still come down with the ball. I love his hands over the middle of the field, and I think, like, again, when he's in the slot and he just has that room to work, that's going to be where he breads his butter for sure.
Yeah,
or butters his bread.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're both kind of on the same page with Johan Dotson. Slot only guy, but could be a really good slot guy.
Yeah.
So I actually had a comparison for him that Bears fans will be familiar with. Now, I know we're talking about him calling Dotson a slot only guy. The guy I compare him to is not a slot only guy, but does work in the slot a lot. Is Darnell Mooney. I think they're very similar players. Similar size, very similar size, similar athletic profile, but I think they have they play in the slot, they can go deep, they have good body control, good hands. Maybe not a perfect comparison, but just kind of the body type and the shiftiness and the speed kind of just made Darnell Mooney stick out in my mind.
I actually really like that comp because I was struggling to find a comp for him. I was like, maybe like an Amon St. Brown kind of like, not to say that they're the same player, but I want to use them the same ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, I think, okay, good. There is one other video I show, and I want to show this because it's just a great route from Dotson, but it also is an RIP to one of my draft crushes, Nick Cross.
Nick Cross,
Nick Cross getting burned. He's going to bite on those. But, that's let me play that again. Just like the way he can sell that inside route and then beat them deep. That was like the play that sold it to me, and especially since at that time I was watching Nick Cross and I was like, Nick Cross is so good, and then that happened. I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Pour one out.
But I still like Nick Cross, 3rd-round draft pick to the Bears.
Dude, I'm a big fan. We'll have to talk.
Yeah.
I just on my other podcast was literally just got done talking about DBs, and yes, I am also a Nick Cross truther.
All right, here we go. Nick Cross Hive. All right. This is not the DB podcast. This is the wide receiver podcast. So we'll move on to the next one. Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. I think we both had him rated pretty similarly. What are your thoughts on Alec Pierce?
He's another one of these big body guys who is a freak athlete in his own right, insanely explosive, insanely fast. And I think all of that shows up on tape, maybe not as consistently as you want it to, but it shows up. Like, he also is very good at the catch point, very good at adjusting his body to the ball. The releases, like, I think his vertical releases are where he's best in terms of separation. My biggest concerns with him was anything that wasn't in a straight line was worrisome, in my opinion. He kind of struggles to change directions. That kind of showed up in his agility times. He rounds out his routes a lot, and also just contact, man, just gave him so much trouble for being as big as he is. Contact knocked him off his spot, like, way too much for me to feel great about, like, him being an immediate contributor and having the ceiling right away. But those are things he definitely needs to clean up. I don't know if he ever gets more fluid. I think that's kind of who he's going to be, but he's got to play stronger if he's going to be this bigger body guy.
Yeah, I agree. He's very much a linear athlete. Just send him deep and don't ask him to do a lot more. But you will love that he's running deep and catching your deep balls from Justin Fields because he's very good at that. I did think he beat press pretty well. He did struggle with contact from time to time, but I feel like he'll get there and he'll be more than adequate there. This is like the X receiver that everyone kind of envisions. 6'3". He's a little bit bigger. He's like 211 pounds or something like that. So I don't think that he does have that ability to, play next. I wouldn't want him in the slot, to be honest.
No.
As we've discussed, he doesn't have that change of direction to really let that work. But as an next vertical receiver, I think he's going to be, very good at that. But my concern is that's all he's ever going to be, is just a vertical threat receiver. He's never going to be that complete wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2 or 3 kind of at best. But I think that's like his floor too. I mean, there's value to what he brings to the table, even if he never develops a route tree and just runs in a straight line. There's value there.
Yeah, when I totally agree. There definitely is value. That's why I have a 3rd round grade on him. So it's not like I think he's just like developmental guy. Like I think he can contribute to some capacity. It's like you just said, is that all he's going to be though? Which you know, who knows? But I'd definitely be willing to take a chance on it at pick 71 if they didn't take a receiver until then and he was on the board. Yeah, bring on Alec Pierce.
Yeah, absolutely. At 71, I think that would be a steal. I think there's a very good chance that he's there at 71. If they took him at 48, or like if they trade down and took him at like 50 something, I'd feel if they trade down and take him at like 50 something, I'd be okay with that. Maybe it's a bit of a reach, but you get extra draft picks. But if they get him at just at 71, I'd be more than happy with that.
Yeah, 100%. Who was your comp for him? I'm curious to see this.
Oh man, I have one, but I don't love it, and I really struggle to find one. And like when I struggle to find a comp, it's like maybe this guy's not very good because like there's not a historical precedent. But I think I got one. It's not. I've got not super happy with it, but Tyrell Williams. And Tyrell Williams had a much better change of direction. So that 3 coming down there, that shows the change of direction. So I'm thinking more Tyrell Williams on the Raiders rather than Tyrell Williams on the Chargers. Just that big playability, take the top off the defense, run a straight line. Again, not super thrilled about that comp, but it's what I came up with.
I think it's decent. I kind of like that. I mean, Tyrell Williams was used in similar ways. So I can see where you're going with that. My comp for him was Martavis Bryant. And Martavis Bryant, because like they only did, like Martavis Bryant really only succeeded in a straight line or in contested catch situations in the red zone. Like that is Alec Pierce, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, I like that one a lot. I think I'm going to steal that one. I like Martavis Bryant. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't have the other concerns of Martavis Bryant.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. But yeah, so yeah, I like that a lot. Like you said, the contested catch ability, the jumping ability, the ability to out jump guys. That 40.5-inch vertical is not for show. That showed up on tape.
100%.
So yeah, just run down the field, jump and catch it. And I think you got something in Alec Pierce.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I do have one other video. Oh, 2 actually videos I want to show. This one's at the Senior Bowl, and this was actually not a straight line. So he actually does kind of sink his hips there a little bit, and it is a little rounded, but it's not as terrible as I thought it was going to be.
No,
so I wanted to show this. He does have like those dig routes. He can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not on a consistent basis, but he does.
And I don't mean to knock him, but like if you watch this release right here, it's like pretty clunky.
He stumbles for sure.
Yeah. And that was more of my issue because like when he was struggling to get off contact, he didn't really have the quicks to like shake guys. You know what I mean? Like when guys were able to get their hands on him, then it was a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one I want to show, because I saw another tweet from someone, I forget who it was. It was just someone on Bears Twitter saying like they didn't like Alec Pierce because of he didn't have the production, which I think is, fair. His production wasn't crazy, but I do have this video from the national championship. He is on the getting wide open, ball just doesn't go his way, but he burned that cornerback. And then this is actually a really good slant, and the ball just gets tipped at the line. So that's 2 touchdowns he could have had that just didn't go his way. But I do think his production could have been better. He obviously was not hindered by quarterback play. Desmond Ridder is a pretty good quarterback, but he was just asked to just run deep, and so he's never gonna be a 100 catcher guy. He's gonna be a 50 reception a year guy.
And if you think about it too, Cincinnati was killing people. Like they weren't throwing the ball down the field like late in the games because they didn't have to. So like if that was all he was for Cincinnati's offense, like that was obviously gonna hurt his production too.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's another good point. All right. So we're thumbs up on Alec Pierce in the 3rd round. Next guy is a guy I struggled with. It's John Mechie from Alabama. He obviously had injury. He had the torn ACL in December, so he couldn't do any athletic tests or anything. But he's a great route runner. I mean, he's a typical Alabama wide receiver. Any Alabama wide receiver who comes out in the draft is going to be a great route runner. He's definitely that. I just don't think he's that great of an athlete. Like even before the ACL injury, I thought he was just, maybe an average to maybe at best slightly above average. And I'm worried that ACL injury is going to get him to a below average athlete, and then he's just a below average athlete. But I struggle with that because, he is a good route runner. And that's usually what translates to the NFL. So I'm curious how you view John Mechie.
I view him in a lot of the similar lights. I mean, I guess I'm not factoring in the ACL as much because I just don't have privy. No, I don't know enough about it
Sure.
to like project that out, but I totally understand the concern because I don't think he's a great athlete, to be honest. I think the appeal to him is just his pro readiness as a route runner and his ability to get open. He gets open pretty well on like all levels of the field, but again, when I wrote about him, I wrote he's a jack of all trades, master of none kind of receiver. He just doesn't really excel anywhere, but he's reliable. And if he's like your third option of an offense, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to like that old scout. I think like, where does this guy win? Like what separates him from everyone else? And it's like, like you said, he's a master, jack of all trades, master of none. And it's like, yeah, he does everything good, but he doesn't have that one thing to kind of hang his hat on. Like,
exactly.
He's gonna do this in the pros, and he's gonna be great at it. So yeah, I think he is more of like a number 3 receiver, maybe a low end number 2 receiver. But there's value there too. With the ACL injury, I don't know when he's going to get drafted. I think Dave Brugler had him in the 3rd round. I wouldn't take him in the 3rd round. I would take him in the 4th round though, probably no problem.
Yeah, he'd be one of those guys that like if the Bears traded back, you'd probably look to target, in the 3rd round or whenever if they get one of the like a later 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick. Yeah, I'd probably feel comfortable taking him there. I would not take him at 71.
Yeah, no. The appeal to him, like you mentioned, it was the pro readiness though, so maybe that would appeal more to the Bears. Considering they have such a glaring need at wide receiver, they can get a guy maybe the late 3rd, early 4th, if they trade back and get a 4th round pick who can play right away, assuming his ACL injury is fine, and we don't have that medical information, so we just got to assume that he's going to be okay. So yeah, that could be a guy who you draft in the 4th round who plays right away and catches 50 passes for 800 yards. But yeah, the other thing I didn't that turned me off John Mechie is he wasn't really a big play threat. A lot of his stuff was underneath, and intermediate. He did go to intermediate, but he didn't have a lot of like deep passes. I think most of his catches, I don't have the stats on me. I should have written it down, but it was like some certain high percentage of his receptions were under 20 yards. So that was a little concerning to me.
Yeah, that's definitely not a huge part of his game. I think like the best course for him in terms of like expanding the field for him is working vertically out of the slot. But like even then, I don't know how great that will ever be. Like I don't know how much of a part that will ever be in his game.
Yeah, he's the guy who's just like very mad on. Like I think
he can I don't really have a take. I don't really have a take about John Mechie.
I don't think anyone has a take about John Mechie. Yeah. Everyone just kind of agrees that he's a good route runner, is pro ready, and will probably have a very long, spectacular career.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
I'll take that in the 4th round.
Right.
I did love this one play though. This isn't even a reception. This is it was an interception by Florida, and then John Mechie comes down from the bottom and just lights them up. I know. There's nothing about that. I just liked it because it was a huge hit. And I love big hits, so I just want to throw that in there.
Definitely helping his stock out by showing the people.
NFL coaches are gonna love that. Like, if like Jim Harbaugh were still in the NFL, he would take him in the 1st round. Just
100%. 100%.
All right. The next guy is a guy I think I'm a little bit more excited about. Maybe a lower floor, though, is Danny Gray from SMU. Big speed guy. You can't mention Danny Gray without mentioning his 4.3 speed, and that 4.3 speed is evident on tape. Like, that's how he wins, and that's that one trait that he has that he can hang his hat on, and he will win in the NFL with his speed. So curious how you feel about Danny Gray. I think you actually had him higher than I did.
I like Danny Gray. Like you said, he's kind of a one-trick pony, but man, coaches love that one trick that he has. He is a field stretcher that defenses always have to account for when they're on the field because he'll get behind you and man, he'll make you pay. So I think he's kind of stiff as a route runner in terms of like expanding his route tree. I think you really only want him running that vertical route tree, like your go routes, your post routes, your crossers over the field. Like I doubt anytime he had to break, it wasn't as clean. And he's not very physical, but like he honestly reminded me a lot of Marquise Goodwin in that regard, like someone you can just scheme open deep targets, and he can win on the outside too if he's just running in a straight line. So I liked him. I probably wouldn't take him into the 4th round, but still, like if I can get him there, I feel great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a 4th round guy who he has. I mean, I agree with you 100%. He's not a lateral mover. He's not. His change of direction is poor. I would say, not even like average. But he does. I mean, when he gets the ball in his hand, I would just send him on deep routes and crossers, just like drag routes, and that's pretty much it. But he's going to be very good at those couple things.
Yeah, he'll be awesome.
So his hands were a little shaky, but I just think that you can't teach that speed. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is he's just really, really fast. Like, he's 4th round, I think is what you said. That's probably where I would draft to. And then, I don't know, maybe you could teach him to be a route runner. He's not a good route runner now, but maybe he picks up a few things, and maybe he can develop into like a solid number 2 receiver as his like ceiling, maybe even like a high end number 2 receiver. But he could also be another guy who's out of the league in a few years.
Definitely.
I think him and Alec Pierce are very similar. Pierce is much bigger, obviously, the size difference there, but like their style of play is very similar. If you can't get Alec Pierce in like the 2nd or 3rd round, you draft that speed and deep play and go route guy in Danny Gray a couple rounds later.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with like when you have a quarterback like Justin Fields who likes to throw the ball down the field, you can never have enough of those guys. Like if that element of your offense is missing, it really, really hurts your offense. So, like, give me all those guys that are available, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. He is a little older. He was a junior college guy. So he's like 20. He's 23 currently. So he'll be 24 at the end of next year. But on the day 3, I don't care how old you are, but that is something to just kind of keep in mind. I didn't have a great comparison on Danny Gray. There's just so many guys who are just fast and run a straight line.
Yeah.
But I didn't have like a really good comparison. So I think I have Quez Watkins, and I think this is just 100% based on just their speed.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was struggling with that one. But Quez Watkins has had a decent start to his career with the Eagles. He's had a decent couple of years. So I think if you can get someone like that who's a role player early on in his career on day 3, you take that.
Yeah, I'll take that all 10 times out of 10.
Exactly. All right. This is a guy that Bears fans like, or at least did like early on in the process. It's David Bell from Purdue. So David Bell at one point was people were talking about him in the 2nd round. I never really saw it. And then his athletic testing came out and it was like, yeah, no, this guy's not a 2nd round prospect. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on David Bell.
So I went back and rewatched him, like actually while I was writing my rankings, and I was like, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on him. And I think I came away liking him more than I initially watched him. I think there's just there's some nuance to his game and some craftiness that obviously, is hard not to admire. But at the end of the day, he has not only like below average NFL traits, like red flag worthy athletic NFL traits. Like, he tested in the 32nd percentile or below in every single athletic test. Like, it's one thing if you did it in one test. No, he did it in every second, and that kind of shows itself on tape. So I think he can survive as this like big slot receiver in the NFL, like kind of like how the Saints use Michael Thomas. He's obviously not Michael Thomas, but I think he can survive in that kind of role. I don't see where that they fit that with the Bears, because that is not, the Bears are not going to really have that role. It's going to be a bunch of, they want speed. That's what they want. They want speed for crossers, and they want speed for vertical routes. And I don't really know where David Bell fits into that equation. I'd be shocked if he ended up in Chicago, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I don't see him fitting what they want, speed. I think I need to go back and rewatch him, because when I watched it the first time, I was like, this guy's not even a guy. Like, he had put up big stats, but he was all just, physicality, and like he was pushing like cornerbacks at the top of route and like not getting called for pass interference. I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe I need to watch him again. But yeah, I don't see him being on the Bears' radar. Like you said, that you can see the athletic scores at the bottom there. Like a 1.56 10-yard is really bad. Like
It's
he's not going to be able to separate.
Yeah, and everyone values testing differently. Like I think, tests obviously matter, like certain tests obviously matter for certain positions, but like when you have nothing to hang your hat on, like Cooper Kupp, yeah, he ran slow, but his change of direction was insane. And like if you watch how the Rams use him, he lines up in the slot and he's a change of direction nightmare for corners. Like David Bell, there's nothing to point to like say, hey, use him like this. So my comp for him was actually Riley Ridley. Someone who was a good college receiver, but like just didn't have the traits to translate in the NFL.
Yeah, I like that. I when I watch, I'm definitely gonna watch him again. I think when I do that, I'm gonna be thinking big slot, like you said, because when I was watching him, I was thinking this is an X receiver. I'm gonna kind of evaluate him that way. I never really considered him in the slot, but I kind of like that now that you mentioned that. So
yeah, because I mean he is pretty good after the catch. Like I mean his PFF stats were pretty good. I just don't know if that looks worse when he's surrounded by NFL athletes, you know what I mean? Like the Big Ten and the NFL is pretty different.
Yeah, no, agreed. I had a comp for him that I actually kind of liked. Quintez Cephas from the Lions, played at Wisconsin.
That's a good comp.
Physical receiver, does not separate, but wins contested catch opportunities, beats press and stuff like that. He was actually a little slower than David Bell. But the agilities were a little better, jumps were a lot better. But yeah, a guy who wins with physicality. And Cephas has had some success with the Lions. He's not, he's a number like 4 or 5 receiver, but he's on a roster, which is more than what I thought he was going to be when he ran a 4.73. So I think that's the kind of the guy he could be, maybe with a little more upside. I think he was a little bit more productive in college than Cephas was, but maybe at best like a third wide receiver is kind of how I view him.
That's his ceiling. I feel like the third option of a good offense is probably is his ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I have one other comp, and like this is not a comp that I'm making. I want to put that out there, but I feel like this is the comp that anyone who's like a big fan of Bell will bring up is like Anquan Boldin, and like
the biggest outlier, like
the biggest outlier of all time,
wide receiver history. Like
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, I'm not comparing him to that. I just think people will compare him to Anquan Boldin. Like, yeah, the Anquan Boldin did test very poorly, but no one's Anquan Boldin, and that was 20 years ago now. So,
and I saw someone compare him to Allen Robinson. And I was like, dude, have you seen Allen Robinson's jumps and his change of direction was insane. Like, he still ran faster. Yeah, he still. I was
gonna say he ran like a 4.4 at the combine.
Yeah.
No, that's. I people just like see like compare on size, like, oh, he's 6'1", 212. That's kind of like Allen Robinson, and then so no, but I do. This is the route that I was talking about earlier when he's at the top of the screen here, where he literally just runs up to the corner and like pushes him, and gets open, and that wasn't called. I don't see like a flag, like they didn't call that, like. So like,
there's a couple of those on his tape. Yeah, there's a couple. Of
I just think that's. I just thought that was so funny watching that.
Yeah.
All right. So going from David Bell to someone who's an exact opposite, we're going to talk about Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, this is a player that we very much differed on, because I had Wan'Dale Robinson as like, my like 6th or something, 7th receiver, and you hit him at like 16. So I'll take this one if that's on me.
Go for it.
Because I ranked it very high. I just think he didn't actually test super great. He tested as like an average to slightly above average athlete, but I just think his change of direction, he's a better route runner than he's given credit for. He plays a lot bigger than what he is, because he's only like 5'7", 180 pounds, or 5'8", 180 pounds, I think. He plays a lot bigger than that. Maybe not so much at the catch point, because he can get bodied by physical corners and doesn't win a lot of 50-50 balls, but he's like a bulldog. I feel like he's smaller, but he thinks he's bigger than he is. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like, he doesn't know that he's 5'8", 180 pounds. So that's why I like him. That change of direction to make people miss in the open field. I feel like he's the most elusive wide receiver in this class after the catch. He makes everyone miss. He's going to provide value as a punt and kick returner too, so that adds some value. So I actually really like him in the 3rd round at that pick 71. He does fit what the Bears want in that West Coast offense of getting their playmakers the ball and letting them kind of, create after the catch. So I'm curious why, not that I not that I'm saying I'm right, but I'm just curious what you saw to rank him so low.
No, I saw a lot of the same things. I really like him after the catch. I really like him when he gets some schemed up touches. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for like his conventional wide receiver ability. Like he can run routes and everything like that. Yeah. Really, this is just athletically based. Like if you're going to be that size, you better be a Calvin Austin level athlete. Like that's kind of where I stand with it. And like, he just isn't. And that's what scares me. And I still like him. Like, I think what I had him a lot higher, and I factored the testing into the grades, and that kind of brought him down for me. But like everything that you said, I'm right there with you. Like there is a lot to like on his tape. I just don't know if he is a every down player. What I'm really intrigued with him though, because he started off as a running back kind of at Nebraska. I want him running option routes out of the backfield. Like that's what I think. Because like we've seen obviously with Deebo Samuel, but like I feel like teams are starting to leverage that more, and I think he's like the perfect player to start doing that with, and can just be an absolute mismatch in that regard.
Yeah, I like that. I think I didn't have this comparison thought until you said that, but like a Tariq, use them at the Bears, use Tariq Cohen. They're the same, like similar size. Use them out of the backfield as a pass catcher, maybe give him a couple rushes here or there, but then also put him in the slot and let him work out of there. So I think that is actually a pretty good comp, and I wish I would have thought about that earlier, because I would have put the RAS score in here. But yeah, I like that a lot. And what you're saying about he did test much worse than I thought he was. And like,
in Kentucky completely lied about his height. They said he was 5'11", and he showed up 5'8". I was like, because when I watched him, I was like, there's no way he's 5'11". Like he looks small. And
I did the same thing. I did the exact same thing. I was like watching him and I was like, oh man, this guy's really good. Like, how tall is he? Like so I looked it up and I was like 5'11". I was like, no way he's 5'11".
There's no way.
That's what he's putting on his like Tinder profile. He's 5'11".
For real.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think he is more of a gadget player at the next level. But I think like a Tavon Austin kind of guy would be also another good example. I think I will stand on my soapbox and say Tavon Austin came into the league too early. If he came into the league 5 years later, he would have been used a lot better. And I think that's kind of how you could use Wan'Dale Robinson, gadget guy.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make there, Stephen, because I feel like the NFL has gotten so much better at leveraging these gadget players. Like they finding more creative ways to get them the ball in their hands. And like, I've never been like that guy who like, stands on the soapbox for gadget guys. Like there's some that obviously intrigue me, but I know that's like a thing for some people. I'm not saying that's for you, but like, no, Wan'Dale Robinson, I think like his ceiling would probably be like a pretty decent slot receiver. Like I think he can, he still offers slot qualities,
Yeah, I think everything we've said about him is pretty spot on. So I don't think I don't have any videos about him. So we can move on to the next guy. Next guy is very similar. It's fitting that we're talking about these guys back to back, because you've also mentioned him earlier, but Calvin Austin, because he's similar size, but he did test as a much better athlete than Wan'Dale Robinson did. And I believe you had Austin higher than Robinson, correct?
Yeah, out of all the smaller gadget guys, Calvin Austin I had the highest, just because, what you just showed right there, he played 90% of his snaps on the outside, which is insane considering he's only 5'7" or 5. He's like 5'8", I guess, if you round.
5'7", 6'8", yeah.
Yeah, 5'8", 170 pounds. He played primarily on the outside, ran wide receiver routes like an outside receiver. And he won consistently. Like the guys couldn't cover him. I mean, he was incredible at the Senior Bowl, untouchable. Like he just ran away from everybody. Obviously the size is alarming, but like I said before, if you're going to be that small, you better be an elite athlete. And Calvin Austin is one of the most elite athletes we've ever seen at the wide receiver position. So out of all the guys I want to bet on him for sure.
That's fair. I also think he's a better route runner than Robinson.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking like, why the hell did I rank Robinson above Calvin Austin? But I kind of threw that list together at the last minute when I saw your list. So I'm gonna use that as an excuse. But yeah, I like Calvin Austin as well. I pulled up his RAS scores. I also compared him to kind of Tavon Austin, maybe a little less gadgety than Tavon Austin.
You know who my comp for him was?
What do you got?
Taylor Gabriel.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a great one.
Because like he's like the only other small receiver I can think of that played on the outside that like could actually win there. Like I couldn't think of another guy that really did that. He's such an interesting, unique profile.
Yeah, that's a good one. The other guy I was thinking of, and I think I compared him to someone else, another guy we're going to talk about soon, but Tyler Lockett kind of sometimes
That's a
plays on
good
the
one.
outside.
That's a good one.
But I think
That's
he's a little bit bigger. I think he's a little bit bigger. But yeah, I mean, I do think I'm not sure if he can play on the outside in the NFL. I know he did it. I know he did it in college, and like I actually have some videos here. Like he can beat press. I mean, like this is him. Like look at that, like much bigger. He got around. I mean, he kind of slowed him down, but at least got off that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And like this one, I mean, that was. I think this
he's filthy. Like he's filthy.
Yeah, like this route is like one of the filthiest ones. So yeah, I think he's more of a slot guy, but maybe he could play on the outside in a pinch, like if you need him to.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's not gonna make his money there. But yeah, I mean, I really like Calvin Austin too, and he also he also dominated the Senior Bowl. Him, Tolbert, and Christian Watson were all.
I thought they were the three best receivers. Yeah, three best receivers at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, he's a much better route runner than I think he's given credit for. The elite athlete. He had some drops, but I mean, if you give me big playability, I can live with some drops. But yeah, elusiveness, yards after the catch guy. He's another guy who could also probably be a punt returner, kick returner. So he provides that value as well. So obviously that's not going to drive him up draft boards too much, but it is something to keep in mind.
100%.
Right. Yeah. So my comp for him was like Austin, Tyler Lockett, something like that.
I think you can use them in very similar ways. I also, I mean, I know we said it about a lot of these guys. I want him getting vertical from the slot. Like I think he can be a nightmare in that kind of role.
Some slot fades.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to ask you, where would you be comfortable drafting Calvin Austin?
I think I would take him in the third. I'd feel comfortable taking him at 71.
Wow.
I mean.
No, I'm right there with you. I think I would too. I'm warming up to it the more I watch it because I didn't like him the first time I watched him just because I went in with the mindset he's super small, like he's gadget guy, but like the more I watched him and opened my mind, I was like, dude, he's winning like an outside receiver and running with really good routes. So yeah, I would not be mad if they took him at 71.
Yeah, I think I would be because like you kind of mentioned it earlier how the NFL has changed over the years. And they're moving more towards the college game, college style.
Yes.
So those guys who are 5'8", 170 pounds, like 10 years ago, Calvin Austin would be undrafted. Same with Wan'Dale Robinson, both of them. But I feel like now with the teams getting smarter and teams understanding how to use these guys, I think I think the third round is where I'd be okay with it. And if you can get him in the fourth, then great. But
yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm not sure if he would be there. But yeah. But yeah, I think with teams getting smarter, they're warming. They see what Tyreek Hill did for the Chiefs, and they're like, I don't want to compare him to Tyreek Hill, but he does kind of the similar things.
He does definitely do similar things.
Yeah, like if there is a Tyreek Hill in this draft class, it's Calvin Austin. Awesome.
Yeah, and if you're talking about a level of athlete, Tyreek Hill, like that's Calvin Austin. Like he is an elite athlete.
Yeah. I talked myself into it. I'm taking him in the second.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I'll stick with the third. Stick with the third.
For sure.
All right, a couple more guys here we're going to talk about. Khalil Shakir from Boise State. I think you had him a little. I think we had him around the same area. Great body control. Maybe some of the best body control. Okay, the catches he makes are amazing. I know he's just breaking a tackle right there, but he's not super elusive. Not going to break a lot of tackles, but he is going to make great catches, good route runner, good body control. He has the quickness to separate and to beat press. So how do you feel about Khalil Shakir?
Yeah, I mean, I am with you on everything you just said. I think he's kind of a slot guy only, which is fine. Like those guys have a role. I don't know if there's any like separating skill that he provides than some of the other receivers in this draft, but like definitely a guy I would want in the slot if he was available on like day 3, like round 4. Can be a quality slot receiver. Like you said, awesome ball skills. I think he's like super deceptive in how he attacks the ball. Like he never shows his hands. He's very good at that.
Big flashes. Yep.
Yeah. He's not spectacular as an athlete. Like, he's just pretty okay across the board. I don't think he's ever, outside of like making some crazy catches down the field, like I don't ever think he's going to stretch the field. I think this is a guy you want working like the short and intermediate parts of the field, and like in the red zone, I think is where he really thrives. So yeah, I like him.
Okay. Yeah, I like him too. I agree with you. Mostly slot. I do think he has some outside ability, but most of the time he's going to be a slot. And I like guys who can kind of do multiple things. I don't like to draft just an X receiver or just a slot guy.
Right.
I like to be able to move around. And I think he's a guy who can do that. He is a little bit bigger. He's about 6 foot, almost 200 pounds. So he's not like that. He's not like Robinson and Austin, who are 180 pounds. Like, I think he could play on the outside a little bit, but mostly, yeah, from the slot.
I think he can run. I think he can run shorter routes on the outside. Like, I just didn't see him like run by anybody. Like, that was mainly my concern. Like, he wasn't the guy who was going to like win vertically on the outside. In terms of like underneath separation, absolutely. I think he can do that from anywhere, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's like I don't know, when did you draft from? Fourth round, fifth round?
Yeah, I think I think he's going to go somewhere earlier on day 3 for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said earlier, everyone we're talking about at this point is not going to be perfect. So, and that's kind of what Shakir is, but I think he could be a solid number 3 receiver on a good team. Or, you know, if he's your number 2, maybe that's not great, but a solid 3 doing some damage from the slot. I like that a lot. And yeah, I think he would be a target for the Bears in the 4th, 5th round. If he makes it to the 5th, that'd be probably a steal. But yeah, in the 4th round, if they acquire a 4th round pick, I think that would be a good fit in their system.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they've had him in for a visit, so they probably are interested.
Yeah, this is that's not the one I thought it was. This is the one I wanted to show. This is what we're talking about with those crazy catches. Like, that is like one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. Right down the sideline. Yeah, again, he didn't beat the guy. This is against zone coverage, so he wasn't separated, but just a crazy catch that I wanted to show.
It's Odell Beckham-esque.
Oh, that's the comparison. You heard it here first. Tom Kavanaugh comparing Khalil Shakir to Odell Beckham.
Next OBJ, man.
That's what I'll be tweeting out to get people to listen to this.
Yeah.
All right. Next guy I want to talk about is a guy that you had ranked much higher than I did. I didn't have him on my list. I think you had him in the top 10 or 8 or something. Romeo Doubs, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I watched Romeo Doubs, whatever how you pronounce it, and I was very, very unimpressed. So I'm curious why you like him so much.
Well, it's actually pronounced Dubs, and that's solely why I have him that high, because his name is just amazing. No, but I need to rewatch him. Okay, so like, in all fairness, I haven't gone back and rewatched him after the Senior Bowl, and he was not good at the Senior Bowl. Like that. Yeah, he was. Alarms went off. Like, alarms went off when I was watching him. He really struggled to get off contact, and he really struggled to catch the ball. And like, the contact was more of a question. I didn't know whether or not he could do it, because he was playing in the Mountain West, and they play a bunch of like soft shoot press. Like, they don't actually like get hands on corners, like in that. And a lot of those teams run that kind of coverage, or the corners don't actually get hands on receivers. So that was kind of my biggest question with him, because he is, you know, a little thin at 6'2", 200 pounds. But I really like the deep speed. I think he is fast. He wasn't able to test this pre-draft process, because he actually got hurt at the Senior Bowl, which is why I'm a little more like benefit of the doubt. He was playing injured. Okay. But on the vertical stuff, I really liked him. I thought he could win outside. Doesn't really offer much else. But again, like, as long as you have that trump card where you can, you know, take the top off, that's kind of why I gravitated towards him. All fairness, I definitely need to rewatch him though.
Yeah. Also, in all fairness, you're not the only person who has him pretty high. So it's not like it was just you. I've seen other people on Bears Twitter who really like him. So that's why I was like, I'm missing something. And I do think he does have that deep playability. That is something that he can hang his hat on in the NFL and do. I don't know. Maybe he's not, you know, he's probably a 4 or 5 guy, I would guess. But like low 4 or 5. Like what?
That's what I'm worried about. If he's not as fast as he looked against Mountain West competition.
Yeah, I will say this. What I'm thinking. Yeah.
I will say this. If you want to watch the best Romeo Dubs, watch his 2020 tape. His 2020 tape was
Okay.
way better than his 2021 tape. And that's kind of why I started watching him last summer, because I was watching Carson Strong for something. And I was like, who is this number 7 dude? Like, he's torching people.
I love when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the best part.
I found out he was like a draftable guy that some people were kind of high on. So that's kind of why I had like an early allure to him.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to give him a look. And like I said, I know other Bears fans who like him a lot too. So when I watch guys, like I have a terrible memory. So like I will like create like GIFs and videos of like good things they do, bad things they do, and save them. So that way when I can always go back and like watch them. And I went back at Romeo Dubs. Literally, I had like 4 videos, and all of them were bad videos. So I was like, oh man. And it was mostly videos of him at the Senior Bowl because, like you said, he was getting manhandled by press, but maybe he was injured there.
Yeah,
so,
he was not good at the Senior Bowl. Like, full disclosure, he was bad. Like, that is why I'm worried about like liking him prior.
Yeah. Well, you still have time to change your rankings if you want to, but don't change your rankings just because I said so.
Yeah.
All right. A few more guys. One more guy I want to talk about, and then 2 guys I just want to mention that I had. But I really want to talk about Bo Melton because I really love Bo Melton. You had him pretty high as well. I think he's the guy you want on day 3.
Yes.
He was in a terrible offense at Rutgers. Quarterback sucked. Just everyone sucked on Rutgers except for Bo Melton. So look at that. He just like made 3 people miss with that juke. So his production wasn't great in terms of stats, but he's got speed. He's got quickness. He can run yak ability. He's not very physical. He's not going to be a contested catch guy, but as a slot guy, and he's a little bit bigger than like I thought he was. When you watch him, I'm like, okay, he's small, like Calvin Oster wanted to represent, but he was actually 5'11", 190 pounds. Like that's not small. That can play on the outside potentially. Probably going to make his living in the slot. But I think he's the guy you want on day 3. And I think he's going to go in the 4th round. But I know I've said that a lot about now that I keep saying this guy's going in the 4th round. Like not all these guys can go in the 4th round. So some of these people are probably going to be in the 4th, 5th round. Maybe Melton's one of those guys. So I really like Bo Melton. He's kind of my guy on day 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when I was writing about him, I was like, out of all these day 3 like smaller guys, Bo Melton's the one I want to bet on. Not including Calvin Austin, obviously, because we think he's going to go higher than that. But like, awesome athlete. At the Senior Bowl, I was like, who is this guy? Like he was torching people at the Senior Bowl in the one-on-one drills. That's when he really caught my attention. I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to watch him. Like you said, Rutgers' offense was like the worst offense I've ever seen watching football ever. Awful. Like it was horrible. Like their quarterback was terrible, short arms, everything. They use him down the field a ton. He can't make throws down the field. He doesn't have time to make throws down the field. So yes, the offense was very ugly, but Bo Melton, there's a lot to like about him in his tape. I think there's some things he needs to clean up and refine in terms of his route running. I think he's kind of erratic in how he gets open. Like he gets open, but like it's like not controlled. You know what I mean? But I think he took strides. Like at the Senior Bowl, you saw him. It was a lot more calculated, I think. And I'm really just excited to see him in a different situation. I think the ceiling is kind of is a lot higher than what he showed at Rutgers.
I agree. And we talked about this guy earlier, but the guy I compared to was Tyler Lockett. And I'm not sure why that's not showing up. There we go. Tyler Lockett. He was obviously a little bit more athletic than Tyler Lockett, but similar size. I don't think Tyler Lockett's a bad athlete. So I think that's a very good and how you would use Bo Melton too, because I don't think he's slot only. I do think he could play a little bit on the outside, and that's kind of where Tyler Lockett moves around a lot too. So I really like that comparison. Like I said, I had Tyler Lockett for I think either Wanda Robinson or Calvin Austin, and then I moved it because I didn't want to compare 2 people to the same person.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I like that comparison a lot. I really like, there are some things he needs to refine, but I really like just like the subtleties of some of his routes. Like this one, he was just running like straight at that safety and does a little head fake and then easily gets open. So I really like something like that. His speed is obviously evident. He also can this is like one of my favorite routes, and like he beats that. But like you said, there is a little bit of refinement that can still happen there on that route. I mean, obviously it worked very well, scored a touchdown, but and it was a good route, but it's not a great route, and he could have maybe a little bit more refinement. But I really like Bo Melton on day 3. I'm really hoping the Bears end up drafting him.
I'd be thrilled. Yeah, he's some guy that I'm definitely intrigued about.
Yeah. All right. I have two guys I just want to mention. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but two sleepers that I really like. If you have any sleepers, feel free to throw them in. But my first one is Javon Heli. I'm, again, not sure if I pronounced that right. He might be one of the best route runners in this class. I'm not even exaggerating. He's a fantastic route runner. He's not an athlete, though. 4.65, 36-inch vertical, 4.53 short shuttle, over 7.3 cone. Not a great athlete. Tested really poorly at the combine, but he just gets open. And he's super productive. And the way he just attacks the stem there against this corner, that was at the East-West Shrine game. And the guy I compared him to is Robert Woods. Robert Woods, not a great athlete, but you can see the size lines up perfectly. Bench is perfect. A little slower, but the 10-yard split and 20-yard split are more similar. Vertical, broad jump, shuttle, 3-cone. So if you haven't watched him, I think he's a guy that can potentially be a solid player late in the draft. And the other guy I really like is Jakari Robertson from Wake Forest. He's a better athlete than Heli is. Probably not as good of a route runner, but he's a little more physical. I really like him as a late round guy. Another guy who's like a big slot. I like his ability to manipulate corners. You kind of see on that route with head fakes and everything. So I really like him. He's a guy I don't think is being talked about enough. He has some big play ability. He has some short route running ability. He also is very good at his very good jumping ability and very good at high pointing the football. And you can see we can look at his RAS score. I compared him to Russell Gage, who has had a decent career with the Falcons. Another late round guy, but you can see the 4.5 speed, nothing special, but the vertical jump, the broad jump, the shuttle, even the 3-cone is pretty good. I think he's a guy who can be something, maybe not immediately, but you can get him in round 7, priority free agent even maybe. So I like him a lot too.
Yeah, wow. I have not heard anything about Jakari Robertson, and he's a pretty good athlete. I mean, nine RAS scores, nothing to complain about.
No, not at all. And I think 9 RAS score with good route running ability and jumping and high pointing ability, I think there's something there.
Definitely. I definitely need to watch him. The only guy I think I'll bring up is Tyquan Thornton, because I thought this dude's just going to be fast. Like, there's going to be not a whole lot to his game. But I honestly was kind of impressed with his game. He's a better route runner than I thought he was going to be. He's pretty good at winning off the line. I don't know if that's because he played in the Big 12, because he's like the thinnest receiver in this class. He's 6'2", 181 pounds. Like, he looks like a skeleton on the field. Yeah. And that is definitely worrisome. I think his speed is not as functional when he has to stack guys. The 4.28 speed. It's like he doesn't clearly get behind people because he has to worry about fighting off contact and stuff like that. He's just not strong right now. But the ball skills are pretty good. He didn't really have a lot of egregious drops. I think there's something there. I compared him to Darius Slayton, just kind of like a complimentary player who can have a role. But yeah, I was intrigued for sure.
Yeah, I definitely need to watch Tyquan Thornton more. I have seen very limited of him. The only thing I know about him is he ran a 4.2. So I definitely need to watch him. He wasn't on my board only because I haven't watched enough of him to include him there. But yeah, he's definitely a guy with some intrigue.
Yeah, but other than that, there's not really anyone. I mean, I like Kyle Phillips is next to the much guy. I know I have him kind of we both have him kind of low. I don't really see where he fits into with the Bears. I don't think they're going to have that role for him within their offense. But for a team like the Patriots or anyone that likes to have their slot receivers run a lot of option routes, that is going to be Kyle Phillips's game. And if the Bears wanted to draft him and make a role for him, I'd be so for that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you too. I probably could have ranked him a little bit higher. He is a guy that I like, but he's just not a guy that I love.
I don't love him.
He's
slot
only guy. Yeah. I know there are people who like him a lot. I think he's good. Slot only guy, but he does have good route running ability. But yeah, definitely an underneath receiver, things like that. So, all right. Well, I think we've talked about a lot of guys. I'm happy with how this turned out. Tom, I want to thank you for joining me. This was great. We're definitely gonna have you on again for sure. So. And thanks everyone for listening. Also, we got to jump off because the Bulls game is starting soon. So bear down and go Bulls.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Steven.
Yeah, no problem.